Meet Sarah, a vibrant soul who, like many others, is facing the challenges of Parkinson's disease, or PD. Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative disorder that affects movement control. It occurs when nerve cells in the brain, which are responsible for producing dopamine, begin to die. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter crucial for smooth, coordinated muscle movements. Its deficiency is what causes many symptoms of PD. A common symptom of PD is tremors, which is the involuntary shaking of limbs. This often starts in the hands. Another symptom is slowed movement, also known as bradykinesia, which makes everyday tasks more challenging. For example, your steps may become shorter when walking. Another symptom is rigidity, which refers to stiffness in the limbs. This impacts flexibility and causes impaired posture and balance, which increases the risk of falls. Music engages various parts of the brain, which releases dopamine and stimulates neural pathways. This can enhance mood, coordination, and overall well-being. When music is being played for Sarah, her feet tap involuntarily to the rhythm, and her hands that are often shaky seem steadier. Music therapy has shown promising results in managing PD symptoms. The rhythmic auditory stimulation helps in improving gait, reducing tremors, and fostering a sense of control. To understand the therapeutic potential of music for PD and future advancements, we have invited Dr. Daniel Cameron, a postdoctoral fellow studying cognitive neuroscience of music rhythm. Can you briefly tell us about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Dan Cameron. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at McMaster University. I work in the Department of Psychology, Neuroscience, and Behavior, and I study the cognitive neuroscience of music. So different aspects of how music makes us feel things and makes us want to move, how it sounds, and all those kind of processes in our mind and in our brain, and especially musical rhythm. That's kind of the area that I focus on the most.
Could you provide an overview of your research on how music is perceived by patients with Parkinson's disease, as well as the role of dopaminergic medication on beat-based auditory timing?
It's a really interesting disease for researchers who are interested in what I'm interested in, which is how we perceive musical rhythm. And that's because the part of the brain that is degenerating in Parkinson's disease is the parts of the basal ganglia. And that is an area of the brain that's also very involved in rhythm perception. So when we hear musical rhythms, different parts of our brain become active, and that's one of them. And we think it has some kind of really important function in this relationship between musical rhythm and our desire to move along to rhythm and our ability to kind of find a steady beat and move along to it when we hear musical rhythm. So what we knew before that study was that it seemed like there might be a benefit to people with Parkinson's disease when they listen to music and musical rhythms, or maybe just like an auditory cue, a metronome, something that goes beep, 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 in terms of helping their walking. So anecdotal reports had talked about this for a long time. Some patients found that, oh, my walking is a little bit easier when I'm listening to music. Okay, why might that be? How might that work? Is there a therapeutic potential here? And I should say maybe first, in Parkinson's disease, it's a unfortunately not uncommon disease. So many people know someone who has Parkinson's disease, but one of the symptoms is that people have trouble kind of initiating movement and having stable, smooth movements. They're more shaky, kind of hesitant in their movements. And as it gets more advanced, they have a lot of trouble kind of controlling their movements overall. So these anecdotal reports about people benefiting, their walking benefiting from listening to music. And then also knowing that, like, okay, this part of the brain, the basal ganglia, is involved both in Parkinson's disease, it's suffering there, and it's involved with rhythm perception. So how might this work together? So one study had found that if you have people with Parkinson's disease listen to rhythms that either have a beat or they don't have a beat, and they have to do like a little memory task where they hear the rhythm, they hear it again, and then they say whether it's changed or not, and we make a little change to it. People with Parkinson's disease were a little bit worse on that task for the beat-based rhythms, the ones that give us a sense of regular beat, compared to healthy controls. People who didn't have that disease, they do better for their beat-based rhythms compared to some other kinds of rhythms, but in patients, we didn't see as much of a benefit there. So the study we did was, okay, can we change this kind of relationship with the medication that people are taking? Can we see an effect? And that would kind of implicate that this dopaminergic system in the brain that's kind of suffering in people with Parkinson's disease is kind of critical in rhythm and beat perception. And so we tested people doing the same kind of thing. They would hear a rhythm and then they'd have to make a little judgment about it when they were off of their dopaminergic medication, and then when they were on it as well. And we found that it kind of changed how they did on the task overall, that there was more of a difference between the kind of beat-based rhythms and not beat-based rhythms when they were on medication. So it's difficult. There's kind of a whole line of research to explore with that. That doesn't give like, okay, now we know about the therapeutic potential of music or something like that. It's one little bit of information, but that's where that study had come from. And there's a lot of work out there on how we can improve people's walking, their gait, how kind of smooth they can walk by using music and rhythms. How does that work? Is it because music is rewarding and they like it, or is it because of the kind of temporal cues, or something else? So there's lots of interesting work there.
How does PD affect the way that individuals perceive and interact with music? Are there specific aspects of music that are affected more than others?
You know, it isn't the case that people with Parkinson's disease don't like music anymore. They still enjoy music and will choose to listen to it. The one thing that we've focused on is their sense of rhythm might be a little bit off compared to people without the disease. And that might have to do with the fact that when we perceive rhythm, it's really involving our motor system. The same parts of our brain and the same system that kind of allows us to generate movement commands, put them into sequences, and then execute those movements in a really kind of temporally precise way. Those same systems are involved in perceiving rhythms. And maybe this relationship between hearing rhythms and wanting to move along. And one recent paper did find, I remember seeing this, that the kind of relationship between what makes a rhythm make you want to move, something we sometimes call groove, like that urge to move along to music that we feel, that we know something about how that works. Like certain kinds of rhythms are good for making you want to move more, typically kind of typical population. In Parkinson's disease, that relationship was kind of off. It was a bit flatter in the sense that there was a kind of less effect of the different types of rhythm on how much they wanted to move. And maybe they just didn't want to move as much. They didn't feel this. So is that because the music is kind of tapping into their reward system a little bit less, or they're perceiving their rhythms differently? There's still a lot we don't know.
What are the practical implications of music on patients with Parkinson's disease? Could music be capable of helping people with Parkinson's?
It seems like it, yeah. So there's a lot of other groups doing research on this. How can we use music to help people with Parkinson's disease? And this has come largely from the anecdotal reports. People who have a family member and they see them who has Parkinson's disease, and they see them walking a little more smoothly when they're listening to some music or other music maybe. And how does that work? What's going on with this? So I think there seems to be some potential for sure. And people have all kinds of questions around this. How does it work? Is it because they like the music so much and it makes them feel good, and that gives them a little more kind of reward processing in the brain? That can change how the dopaminergic system is working. Or is it just about the kind of temporal cues? Maybe just people have a little, an earbud, and they can hear like a beep, 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 that is at the pace that they want to be walking at, and it helps them kind of do that. There's evidence for kind of lots of different things, and we don't know for sure how this works. But one thing is that probably this is going to depend on, the individual person, which types of, and it's a diverse disease. Parkinson's disease isn't one thing to all people who have it. And so the way in which it's affecting them, maybe depending on how responsive they are to music in the first place. Like if some people just don't like music all that much, other people love music and it really motivates their behavior in other ways, there might be effects there that how much they can benefit from it. But it seems for sure like there's some therapeutic potential.
As we've seen with Sarah, music holds a transformative power, especially for those living with Parkinson's disease. Our journey today, enriched by Dr. Daniel Cameron's insights, has revealed the deep impact of music on the human brain, particularly in the context of neurodegenerative disorders. Through the lens of cognitive neuroscience and the rhythm of music, we've seen how tailored musical interventions can alleviate symptoms like tremors and rigidity, improve gait and movement, and importantly, enhance the overall quality of life for patients like Sarah. The intersection of music and medicine is not just a frontier of scientific exploration, it's a source of hope. As we continue to uncover the therapeutic potential of music, we pave the way for innovative treatments that harmonize the science of healing with the art of living.